It started with a receipt, not a scandal, not a confrontation, just a single faded piece of paper and a quiet act of kindness that no one was supposed to notice. But someone did. Why are you wasting company paper for this? The manager's voice sliced through the air like a blade, loud, sharp, final. The hum of the store dimmed, conversation stopped, even the background music seemed to hold its breath. Carla stood frozen. In her trembling hand, she held the reprint of a receipt, nothing more. The elderly customer beside her looked puzzled, unaware of the wave that had just crashed over the woman trying to help her. "I was just trying to help her reprint it," Carla whispered, voice cracking, eyes lowered. I thought it was okay." But the manager, Jenna, didn't flinch. "You thought wrong," she snapped. Then louder, for everyone to hear. "This isn't a charity. We don't give out freebies here." And just like that, Carla's small kindness became an accusation. The receipt fluttered from her hand and landed by a pair of worn black shoes. Standing nearby was a man in a plain polo shirt and tool belt with a badge that read trainee technician. But it wasn't his clothes that stood out. It was his eyes, still, sharp, and watching. He didn't move, he didn't speak, but he saw everything. Long before that receipt hit the floor, Carla had already carried years of weight on her shoulders. Her shift began each morning before the sun could rise, her breath visible in the cold, her jacket too thin to block the wind. She pedaled through empty streets on a bike with a loose pedal and worn-out seat. Every day started the same. A nod from the security guard at the back door, a soft, "Good morning, Miss Carla," and the gentle click of her name badge, scratched, faded, but worn with quiet dignity. She never asked for recognition. She showed up, every single day, and no one paid attention. Inside the break room, a dim, cramped space where the only light flickered, she'd sit on an overturned crate, unpacking her lunch from a reused container. Cold rice, a boiled egg, pickled vegetables. Not much, but always shared if someone else had nothing. Like that younger employee who came in, hoodie up, no food in hand. Carla didn't ask. She just offered half. And when he mumbled thank you, she smiled like it was nothing, because to her it was normal. Normal to be overlooked. Normal to give without being thanked. Normal to be stepped over without apology. But that day, when a simple receipt became an offense, someone's man with the trainee badge didn't speak, but he didn't look away either. That silence, it wasn't passive. It was heavy, intentional. The kind of silence that precedes something bigger. The kind of silence that holds truth before it's spoken. This wasn't just another shift. This was the day everything started to change. Carla knelt on the cold floor near aisle 5, a yellow caution sign beside her, a half-full mop bucket with water already murky from the morning's cleaning. The tile beneath her knees was unforgiving, and yet she scrubbed with the same steady rhythm she always did. Her hands moved in slow, deliberate circles, her posture low, her eyes focused, not because someone was watching, but because this was how she worked. With care, with intention, with pride, even if no one ever acknowledged it. A pair of boots rushed past her, then another. The first one nearly stepped on her outstretched arm. She flinched, instinctively pulling it back. The customer didn't stop, didn't glance down. No excuse me, no apology, nothing. She looked up for just a second. All around her, people moved fast, shopping carts squeaking, sneakers squealing against the tile, voices mumbling about sales and coupons. No one noticed her, no one ever did. And so, she lowered her head again, picked up the rag, continued scrubbing. But someone did notice. From across the aisle, a man stood holding a pricing gun. He wore a plain shirt, a stiff posture, and a trainee badge that still gleamed like it had just been printed. He wasn't cleaning, wasn't labeling. He wasn't doing anything. Just standing there, watching. His steps were quiet, his presence low-key, but his gaze, it didn't waver. He didn't see a janitor. He didn't see a name tag. He saw something else entirely. Later, he stood near the stockroom door, fumbling with the pricing gun in his hands. His fingers moved awkwardly, unsure of the buttons, struggling with the sticky roll of labels inside. Carla, passing by with her mop and cart, noticed. She stopped, calm and composed, and walked over. "First day?" she asked gently. He looked up, surprised. "Yeah, they told me to start with labeling." She didn't laugh. She didn't make him feel small. Instead, she took the gun from his hand, pressed a button to pop open the casing, and revealed the jammed sticker roll. "This one's tricky. Jam's half the time, she said. Then, with quiet patience, she showed him how to hold it, how to adjust his grip, where to press, how to feed the roll back in. He watched closely, silently. Her hands moved with practiced ease. You'll get used to it, she said with a small smile. Everyone's lost on day one. He exhaled a short laugh, almost embarrassed. Thanks. I'm Mark. Carla, she replied. If you need help, just ask. And just like that, she turned back to her cart, moving on as if the kindness meant nothing. But it did. Mark looked down at her name badge. The edges were chipped, the lettering faded, but still legible. Customer care team since 2013. He stared a moment longer before getting to work. They worked side by side that day, stocking shelves, folding cardboard boxes, resetting display tags. Carla moved like a song, fluid, rhythmic, unbroken. Not a single motion wasted, not one breath out of sync. She didn't rush, but she didn't lag. There was a precision in how she operated, and Mark struggled to keep pace. He dropped a pack of napkins. Before he could kneel, Carla was already there, helping him stack them again, quietly, without a word. You've been here a while? He asked. She nodded. 10 years. His eyebrows lifted. 10? Never missed a day, she added. Not even once. Rain, snow, flu, it didn't matter. She came in, on time, every time. He looked at her, amazed, not because she said it with pride, but because she said it like it was just expected, like it was normal. This job's not perfect, she continued, but I show up. That counts for something. He didn't know how to respond, so he just nodded. She turned back to the shelf, lining the last few items with exact spacing, each can of soup aligned edge to edge, all labels facing forward. There was pride in her work, even in the smallest things. And in that moment, Mark saw her differently. Not just as a worker or a long-timer or someone stuck in routine, but as someone who showed up, no matter what. Someone who didn't need applause to do the right thing. Someone who, in the quietest ways possible, held this entire place together. Across the store, a figure watched them, arms crossed, clipboard clutched tight. Jenna. She didn't wave, didn't smile, just stared. For a long moment, Carla's eyes met hers, and her smile faded, just slightly. She gave a small nod. Jenna didn't return it. She turned sharply, heels clicking against the tile as she walked away. Mark noticed the tension, like static in the air. Who was that? He asked. Carla took a moment. That's Jenna, she finally said. She handles scheduling. And then she picked up her mop bucket and walked on. Mark said nothing, but the way Carla's shoulders sank as she turned, he caught it. Later that week, Mark watched Carla rush in through the back door, breath uneven, cheeks pink from the cold. Her bike chain had slipped halfway down the block. She'd had to walk it the rest of the way. She hung her coat, tied her apron, grabbed her checklist from the wall. And waiting by the time clock? Jenna, arms crossed, foot tapping. You're late, she snapped. Carla blinked. 3 minutes, I'm sorry. Doesn't matter, Jenna cut her off. Already logged it, you'll lose 15 minutes pay. I wasn't even on the floor yet. You can file a complaint if you want. HR's online. And then Jenna walked away. No explanation, no conversation, no fairness. Just a deduction and a door shut in her face. Carla stood still, one hand gripping the clipboard, her breath short. But then she inhaled deep, straightened her shoulders, and walked to work. Mark saw it all, from just a few feet away, and though she never said a word, he understood something powerful that day. She kept going, even when it wasn't fair, even when no one cared, even when no one saw, but he saw, and soon the rest of the world would too. The clock on the wall read 8:03. Carla had made it through the back entrance just minutes before, breath uneven, cheeks flushed from the morning cold. Her bike chain had slipped again. She fixed it with her bare hands, arrived as fast as she could. But Jenna was already there, standing rigid by the time clock, arms folded, her foot tapping like a drumbeat of disapproval. You're late, Jenna snapped, not even looking up from her tablet. Carla blinked. 3 minutes. I'm sorry. Doesn't matter, Jenna cut her off coldly. I already logged it. You'll lose 15 minutes of pay. Carla hesitated. I wasn't even on the floor yet. You can file a complaint if you want, Jenna said, already turning away. HR's online. Just like that, she was gone. No room for explanation, no grace. Carla stood in silence, her hand still holding her clipboard. A flicker of confusion crossed her face, followed by resignation. She inhaled slowly, steadied her breath, and turned toward her duties like she always did. Mark saw everything. He stood a few feet away, pretending to review inventory near the cereal display, one hand holding a notepad, the other gripping a pen. He watched Carla push a heavy cart down the aisle. One of the wheels jammed, and she used her knee to nudge it forward. Not a word of complaint, not a sound of frustration. She just kept moving. Mark scribbled a note, then another. Numbers, names, timestamps. His jaw tightened. Later that day, Carla opened the timekeeping system on the old desktop in the break room. Her fingers hovered over the mouse. She checked her hours. Something felt off. Tuesday, she remembered clocking in at 7:58, but the system showed 8:12. A red mark, late, adjustment applied. She clicked to Wednesday. Same thing. Another deduction, 2 days, 15 minutes each. She narrowed her eyes. She had never been late. She hovered over the print button, hesitating. A shadow passed behind the break room window. She didn't notice, but someone saw her, and he understood. She was no longer just tired. She was beginning to question the system that had taken her silence for consent. Moments later, Carla stood outside Jenna's office, holding a printed copy of her time card. She knocked gently. Jenna was typing furiously, barely looked up. "Can I ask you something?" Carla said softly. "If it's quick," Jenna replied without pause. "I think there's a mistake in my hours," Carla began, calm but cautious. 2 days show I clocked in late, but... "You think the system's wrong?" Jenna snapped, now meeting her eyes. "I just thought maybe it was edited. I know I was on time. You think I have time to double-check every little complaint?" Jenna's tone rose sharply. "You think I'm just sitting here waiting to listen to your clock-ins?" Carla stayed quiet. Jenna snatched the paper from her hand, scanned it for half a second, then tossed it onto her desk like it was garbage. "I'll look when I can." That was it. Carla didn't protest. She just nodded slowly and turned to leave. But outside the door, Mark had heard every word. He didn't move, but something inside him did. Later that morning, Mark stood alone in the stock room. Boxes stacked high around him. A clock ticked softly above the door, 8:44 a.m. From his pocket, he pulled a small black device. Pressed it once, a green light blinked faintly. The camera clipped behind his collar, invisible to the casual eye. He adjusted it carefully using his phone screen, then tucked the phone away. From now on, everything would be recorded. Every word, every silence. No more guessing, no more assumptions, no more relying on memory. He would capture the truth exactly as it happened, and the store would never be the same. That day, praise was handed out, but not where it was earned. In the back aisle, a young employee leaned against a shelf, earbuds in, scrolling on his phone with one hand. His lanyard was bright, his shoes untied. Carla walked past him pushing a cart stacked with paper towels. She paused to straighten a tilted display. The stockroom door jammed. She struggled to force it open. No one helped. Jenna walked in moments later, her eyes locked on the young man. "Hey, nice hustle today," she said with a smile. "Love the energy." He gave a lazy thumbs up. Didn't even put his phone away. She walked off, pleased. Carla, invisible, again. Mark watched from a distance. His pen never touched paper, but his camera was rolling. He saw the praise. He saw the silence. He saw the difference in how people were treated and who even got seen. That night, Carla sat by herself, quietly typing up a short proposal. Just a few ideas. Ways to reduce packaging waste, prevent spoilage, save costs. She printed one page, brought it to Jenna's office. "I put together a quick proposal," she said politely, holding it out. "Some ideas to reduce waste in stocking." Jenna didn't look up. "We've got a system for that already." Carla stood frozen. "I just thought." Jenna pushed the paper back toward her without even reading it. "We're fine, Carla. No thank you, no review, no chance." Carla nodded slowly, folded the paper, slipped it into her pocket and left. No fight, no scene, just more silence. But Mark was there. He saw her walk down the hallway, her face unreadable. Her hands stayed clenched at her sides, not out of anger, just fatigue, the kind that came from years of being dismissed. Later, behind the store near the loading dock, she stood alone. The cold concrete pressed against her spine, one hand on the wall, the other covered her face. Just for a second, her sleeve brushed the corner of her eye. No sobs, no sound, just a breath caught in her chest. And then it passed. She stood again, straightened, returned to the floor. Mark stood at the end of the hallway. He didn't step closer, didn't say her name, but he saw and he understood. Because sometimes strength doesn't shout. It just keeps going, even when it's breaking inside. The camera was still rolling. The investigation had just begun. The call came from the front desk. A customer had complained, said they'd been ignored in the pet aisle. No one double-checked the footage. No one even asked questions. Jenna stood in the middle of the employee huddle, tablet in hand, voice sharp and unyielding. "Carla, you were on shift." Carla turned, confused. "I was unloading stock in dry goods. I wasn't near that section." Jenna didn't look up. "Well, your name's on the floor plan. That's enough." A beep. A red mark appeared next to Carla's ID on the screen. "Verbal warning," Jenna announced. 30-minute pay deduction. "But I didn't. It's done," Jenna cut in. "We need accountability." Silence spread across the room like a virus. No one spoke. No one defended her. The only sound was the tap of Jenna's finger confirming the penalty. Carla didn't cry, didn't fight. She stood still, hands at her sides, eyes steady, tired but not broken. In the back corner near the supply rack, Mark watched everything, and this time he wrote it all down. Later, Carla stood by the loading dock where no cameras reached. One hand pressed to the concrete wall, the other covered her face. She wiped the corner of her eye with her sleeve. Quick, quiet, like it didn't happen, like it wasn't allowed to. Inside, the store carried on. Boxes dropped, customers laughed, music played, but none of it touched her. From the far end of the hallway, Mark stood still. He didn't approach, didn't interrupt. He simply watched and understood, because strength doesn't always stand tall. Sometimes it leans on a wall when no one's watching and still chooses to return. By now, the whispers had started. Near the loading dock, in hushed tones over lukewarm coffee, employees spoke carefully. "I heard Jenna's cleaning house next month." "Yeah?" Carla's name came up. "Seriously? She's been here too long, gets paid more than the new hires, budget cuts." Mark overheard everything. He walked past slowly, pushing a cart, pretending not to hear. But inside his pocket, the notepad was already open. Carla, unaware of her looming fate, remained Carla. She offered to bag groceries for a struggling mother with a toddler. She straightened displays, picked up tipped carts, smiled even when Jenna was watching with that cold, crossed-armed stare. She stayed kind, even when the system was not. One day, she brought a single typed page to Jenna's desk. Suggestions to reduce waste, ideas to improve restocking, simple, practical changes. Jenna didn't even read it. She slid the paper back without a glance. "We're fine, Carla." Carla nodded, folded it back into her pocket, and left. Still no protest, no complaint, just clenched hands and another breath swallowed quietly. The store kept moving, but something underneath it had shifted. The weight Carla carried was no longer invisible. Mark saw it, and he was done just watching. That afternoon, an announcement crackled over the intercom. "All staff, report to the main room. Mandatory meeting. 5 minutes." The buzz across the store was instant. Pallets were left half unloaded, price tags half clipped. Employees exchanged glances. Did someone get fired? Maybe it's another cut. Carla stepped out from aisle 4, brow furrowed. Mark shrugged when she looked at him but followed closely behind. Inside the main room, chairs were pulled into a loose circle. No coffee, no clipboards, just silence. Jenna stood near the whiteboard, arms crossed. Her eyes didn't settle on anyone. Carla sat near the end, hands folded in her lap. Mark sat across from her, quiet. The clock ticked. 5 minutes passed. Then the door opened. Footsteps echoed in slowly, calm, deliberate. Mark walked in, but not as Mark. Gone was the tool belt, the trainee badge, the polo shirt. He wore a dark blazer, a pressed shirt, clean shoes. He no longer looked like a new hire. He looked like someone with authority. And the air in the room shifted immediately. No one spoke. No one breathed. He stepped beside Jenna. She turned pale. Her arms stayed crossed, but her eyes darted everywhere, except toward him. Then he began. "My name is Marcus Lang. I'm the founder and CEO of this company." Gasps echoed. A chair scraped back. Someone whispered, "No way." Marcus scanned the room once slowly. "For the past 5 days, I've worked among you. Not as a boss, but as one of you. I stocked shelves. I clocked in. I listened." Whispers spread. Eyes widened. Some looked at Carla. She didn't move. Jenna's posture faltered. She took a step back. Marcus pulled a folded paper from his pocket, held it up. "I came to see the truth for myself, and I did." He unfolded the paper. Names, dates, incidents. "This isn't just about mistakes. It's about patterns. Choices made when no one thought I was watching." He pressed a button. A screen behind him flickered on. The footage played. Carla at the register, reprinting a receipt for an elderly woman. Jenna's voice rang out. "This isn't a charity. We don't give out freebies here." Gasps again. Some employees looked away. Others lowered their eyes. Next clip. Carla standing by Jenna's desk, gently asking about her time card. Jenna snapping, dismissing, tossing the paper aside. Then another, Jenna issuing a warning. Docking Carla's pay without investigation. Clip after clip. Truth laid bare. Carla didn't speak in any of them. She just stood, took it, walked away. When the video stopped, the silence in the room was deafening. Marcus turned back to the group. His voice remained calm. "No one should be treated this way. Not in my company." He looked around the room. "Jenna," he said without raising his voice, "what I saw was not leadership. It was failure." Jenna opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked at the screen again. At Carla. At herself. She lowered her head. Not in defiance, not in anger. In shame. No one defended her, because there was nothing left to say. Marcus stepped forward. "This branch," he said, "will be closed effective immediately." Shock exploded. "What?" "Wait, what do you mean closed?" Marcus raised a hand. "Not out of punishment, not out of revenge, but because culture starts at the top, and this one failed." He turned toward the assistants, the silent watchers, the ones who let it happen. "I won't rebuild on rot. I'd rather start over with people who know what this place should be." All eyes turned to Carla. She still hadn't moved. Her hands were folded, her shoulders still. It wasn't shock on her face, it was release. Then Marcus turned to her. "If you're willing," he said, "you'll be the first person we keep." Carla blinked. He stepped closer. "You've shown more leadership, more care, more integrity than I've seen in years." She glanced around. Faces that once overlooked her were now watching, listening. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Then just say yes," Marcus replied. She looked down at her hands, then slowly back up, and for the first time in a very long time, she felt seen, not for how long she stayed, but for who she truly was. A single clap broke the silence, then another. Then the whole room stood, not out of pity, but out of respect. The sun filtered through wide, spotless windows. The floors gleamed under the warm overhead lights. Everything smelled new, fresh paint, polished fixtures, soft linen from the floral aisle. Carla stepped through the doors of the new store with quiet steps. No announcement, no ceremony, just motion, intentional, calm, sure. For the first time in years, she wasn't just starting a shift. She was starting something new. A young cashier looked up and smiled. "Good morning, manager." Another employee waved from the produce section. "Need help setting up the break room?" Carla nodded, still adjusting to the sound of that word, manager. She passed the front counter, pausing when she saw a simple sign taped to the wall. Just a piece of paper, handwritten in bold, careful letters. "Kindness is not policy, it's culture." She smiled. They were her words, spoken once without planning, now posted for everyone to see. Not as a rule, but as a reminder. Behind her office door, a nameplate waited. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't golden. Just a small plaque with her name, Carla Mendez. That was enough. She placed her bag on the desk, exhaled slowly, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was surviving a job. She felt like she was building something. At Register 3, a new employee stood nervously, his hands hovering over the touchscreen, unsure. He was young, eager, with a hearing aid behind his left ear. Carla approached him gently, carrying a notepad. She smiled, then tapped his shoulder and wrote a few words. "Let's do it together." She pointed to the screen, then to each item. Let him follow. No rush, no judgment. When he pressed the wrong button, she didn't correct him out loud. Just shook her head gently, smiled again, and wrote, "Try it one more time." Customers nearby watched in quiet admiration. When he finally got it right, she gave him a thumbs up. He beamed. Not a single word had been spoken, but everything was understood. Outside the store, across the parking lot, Marcus stood with his hands in his pockets. No blazer, no entourage, just him, watching from a distance. Through the glass, he saw Carla helping, guiding, laughing softly with a customer, standing beside the young man she was training. No tension in her shoulders, no hesitation in her steps. She wasn't performing, she was leading. He didn't go inside. He didn't need a thank you. He gave one last glance, then turned, stepped off the curb, and let her lead the way forward. Later that day, an older man approached Carla at checkout. Just a loaf of bread and a carton of milk. As she scanned the items and bagged them, he paused. "Thank you," he said softly. "Not just for today, but for how you treat people." Carla looked up surprised. He smiled, then walked out slowly, groceries in hand. She stood still, not because the line had stopped, but because the moment had. It wasn't about the bread. It was about being seen. The store lights dimmed toward closing. Carla stood at the door, waving goodbye to the last customer. Calm, steady, no spotlight, no speech. Then the screen faded to black. Have you ever met someone like her? Comment me too if you have, because kindness isn't rare. It's just often overlooked. Follow us to meet the next one, someone you might already walk past every day.